In you go.
While most 6-year-olds are running around at recess, 6-year-old Aiden Barnum is happy batting his baby toys around in a baby seat.
Aiden just turned 6. He cannot walk. He cannot talk.
Good job.
He cannot feed himself.
And while most 6-year-olds are learning to read and write in kindergarten,
Push, push, push.
in this home video you see Aiden recently learning to sit up, something doctors thought he'd never do on his own.
Yay!
It's like still taking care of a baby in the range of 6 to 9 months old.
He has many, many, many disabilities, but he is so loved.
Melissa and Bill Barnum adopted Aiden when he was a baby. You can see the joy in court on adoption day. The Barnums knew he faced a long list of health problems, including brain damage, cerebral palsy, autism, seizure disorder, and epilepsy.
It didn't matter. He was our baby.
But Aiden wasn't born this way. All of it could have been prevented.
I mean, even now, 6 years later, I can't wrap my brain around how it was allowed to happen.
While Aiden was born healthy, he made his first trip to the emergency room when he was just 12 days old. Doctors found a severe fracture of his left arm.
Really significant and violent force and twisting action.
While the birth parents offered different explanations, such as being hugged by lots of people at a wedding or being swaddled too tightly after a bath, 6 separate doctors didn't buy it.
So they call CPS.
They suspected Jacob Mejia, Aiden's birth father, had abused his 12-day-old son.
And they put him under protective custody.
But the protection of Aiden lasted less than a day. The social worker assigned to the case concluded the baby would be at risk of serious and immediate harm if sent home. Despite that, that's exactly what she did. She sent the baby home with a handwritten safety plan for the parents to attend parenting classes.
And nobody listened. And Aiden went back home, and his entire life was changed because all those adults that were involved let him fall through the cracks. They all failed him.
4 weeks after that broken arm, Aiden showed up at the emergency room again. This time, the father had assaulted the baby so violently it caused those life-altering injuries. A broken collarbone, another broken arm, 4 broken ribs, a brain bleed, and most devastating, a fractured skull. Traumatic brain injury.
And I feel sad that there were so many adults involved before this head injury occurred that just let Aiden fall through the cracks.
What did CPS do in that month between the injuries? Records show the answer is nothing. After the suspicious broken arm, per state policy, the CPS investigator was obligated to separate the child from his father, talk to law enforcement about the case, interview the treating doctors, review medical records, and have regular contact with the family. Instead, not one of those things happened.
Not a thing.
Not one phone call, not one visit?
No contact with the family. No contact with any of the doctors. No obtaining any of the records.
The Barnums sued DSHS in 2012 for not protecting Aiden, and during trial, the social worker admitted it. When asked if CPS did anything after the broken arm to keep the baby safe, she answered, "Not that I'm aware of."
They just didn't do their job.
Jurors unanimously found CPS negligent in the case. But according to Aiden's lawyer, a confusing last-minute jury instruction led the panel to let the state off the hook. Now the Barnums are appealing.
I want justice for Aiden more than anything, because he just deserves it. Because no baby, no person should go through what he's been through.
Well, the parents feel CPS is to blame for Aiden's disabilities. All this paperwork shows another state agency fights the parents for nearly everything he needs to cope with those disabilities.
Whenever I have to appeal something or fight for, you know, a piece of equipment that helps to better his life, I think that is the most infuriating piece, is that he shouldn't need any of this. He was born perfectly healthy. None of this would even be necessary if people had stepped up and did their jobs and protected him.
As an adopted foster child, the state of Washington's Health Care Authority is to pay for Aiden's medical expenses. But the state first denied a request for this activity table. They said Aiden could eat in his wheelchair. They fought the family on the wheelchair as well. And it was a 2-year battle to get bigger diapers. 2 years of paperwork and rejections over diapers.
We're not asking for, you know, a top-of-the-line wheelchair, electric or whatever. We're just asking for diapers. I mean, you really can't get much more basic, much more fundamental as far as a human need than the dignity of keeping yourself clean.
Aiden's parents hope the state will take responsibility for the failures admitted at trial so that their child's needs can be met now and into the future. It's difficult to watch 37-year-old Barbara Eller struggle to breathe and speak and tremble. We watched as her fingers started to bleed from compulsively rubbing them together. She also can't look people in the eye or go out alone. Doctors have diagnosed her with PTSD, panic disorder, and insomnia from prolonged trauma.
Stay in my house a lot. And when I go out in public, I shake and so that people look at me like I'm a weirdo. And I feel like that.
Eller wasn't like this when she began working here at the Rainier School, run by DSHS in 2006. She was an assistant caregiver for the live-in residents, developmentally disabled adults with high needs. She loved the job.
I was excited. And, you know, I felt like it was the first time I could have something that could be my career.
But a few months into the job, she says her supervisor started hitting on her. We're not naming him because of the nature of the allegations, and he hasn't been charged with a crime. Eller says the harassment escalated during a night shift.
And that's when he locked me in the bathroom with him. And made me kiss him and started doing other stuff.
In her lawsuit, Eller claims it got worse from there, with her boss routinely demanding humiliating and violent sex acts, leaving her with bruises and physical damage. She's scheduled to have a vaginal repair surgery this month.
And I would bleed. And they would tell me next time, I better do what I'm told.
The supervisor left a trail of evidence of the relationship with thousands of pornographic texts, photos, and videos of himself he sent to Eller over the years. Most of the material is so lewd we can't show it on TV. King 5 reviewed 1 year's worth of texts, 2,100 sadistic, sexually charged messages. A few less graphic ones include, "You are my property," "You are my sex slave and will do what you're told," and "It was hot, no matter if you say no or not." Eller said she had to be at the ready, at his beck and call, 24/7.
Even if I was sleeping, I better answer that message. If it's a text message or if it's a phone call, otherwise I would be in trouble and it would punish me.
Out of the school, Eller says the supervisor was nicknamed the Golden Boy, a popular and respected employee who received promotions. Eller says he told her to make sure his reputation stayed that way.
At first it just started with, I better not say anything because I'll lose my job and nobody will believe me. And then he said that it only takes one bullet to solve his problem. And would tell me how good of a shooter he was from being in the Army.
There's another side to this story. While the supervisor admits to a lengthy relationship, he says Eller was the harasser, not him, that she demanded pornography and sex. He got a restraining order against her last spring after testifying that she was in control of it all, and she would make him have sex or she'd tell his wife and ruin his career. In addition, we reviewed more than 800 texts Eller wrote to the supervisor, telling him, "I love you and miss you."
It's a hard thing to understand why someone would remain in a relationship that's abusive.
Lucy Berliner is the director of the Harborview Center for Sexual Assault and Traumatic Stress. She's never treated or evaluated Barbara Eller, but says they see this scenario a lot.
There are consequences for trying to stop or get out of a relationship with someone who is in authority over you.
I couldn't do it no more.
Eller says she tried to tell other staff members about the harassment, but no one believed her. DSHS said they have no record of Eller ever complaining about sexual harassment in the workplace, that they have a zero-tolerance policy, and once they heard about her concerns, they took immediate action and launched an internal investigation.
Sexual torture on the grounds of Rainier School. How could they not know?
D. Michael Tompkins is Eller's attorney. To date, no one from the school or DSHS has called her to inquire about the allegations.
It's been 11 months since she went to the superintendent's office. I think that's enough to get their ducks in a row and ask the victim what the hell happened.
Barbara Eller is a single mother of 3 boys, one with autism. She says she needed the job to take care of them, and now all she wants is to be able to do that again. When help finally arrived for the Weller children, police documented proof of chaos, starvation, and abuse. 2 emaciated teenagers, one so malnourished her hair had fallen out. Food locked up in the refrigerator and pantry. Canned food near the kids' bedrooms, pried open with a screwdriver. A hole behind this piece of wood where the siblings secretly passed food to each other. And there was a wooden stick used in beatings, with one end of it stained with blood. Despite a staggering number of warnings into the local DSHS office that these kids were being abused and neglected, more than 80 calls from teachers, healthcare providers, and relatives, the CPS professionals never went past the Wellers' front door to investigate.
It would have confirmed what they've been being told for years, that these kids were being abused, they were being neglected, they were being starved, they were being beaten, they were being tortured, but they didn't bother to do even that basic level of social work.
Last year, a judge sentenced the parents to 20 years in prison apiece for abusing their children. And shortly after that legal process ended, another one began.
It's going to take them a lifetime to recover from what's happened here.
These attorneys filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against DSHS on behalf of the kids, accusing the state of being lazy and incompetent, leaving the children inside that home to suffer for years.
Time and time again, they received the warnings and simply just entered a passage in the computer and went home for the day. Nothing was done.
Naturally, both sides had to prepare for the case and a possible jury trial in Clark County.
And through internal state records, we see the AG's office prepared and prepared big, spending thousands of dollars on independent experts, professionals paid to find out how are the kids doing and how much therapy will it take to help them heal.
The AG's office signed a $200,000 contract with a psychologist from Georgia, Dr. Lauren Reba Harrelson. In August, she raked in more than $94,000 from the state on this case, nearly $95,000 for 4 weeks of work. The state signed another $200,000 contract with her supervisor, Dr. Park Dietz, to review her work.
That's outrageous. It's very, very shocking.
Catherine Kent was a CPS social worker who left state work to become a family law attorney and judge pro tem.
I was completely surprised. It seems very excessive.
And in all your years of working at DSHS and now being an expert yourself, have you seen something like this before?
Never.
I'm Dr. Reba Harrelson, and I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist.
This is what the state paid for. That's Dr. Reba Harrelson evaluating one of the children. She saw each of them individually and reviewed their files. But in emails we see her work wasn't cutting it for her supervisor, Dr. Dietz. She needed to get more aggressive in defending the state.
It's a win-at-all-cost mentality that the taxpayers should be furious about.
In one email, Dr. Dietz chastises his subordinate for writing opinions unfavorable to the state's case. It continues to look to me as though you'd be a more valuable expert for the plaintiffs, wrote Dietz. When Reba Harrelson writes she generally agrees with the plaintiffs that the kids need 10 years of treatment or 15. Dietz doesn't like that either. He responds the kids can't possibly need that much help, that effective treatments never last more than a year. And unlike Dr. Reba Harrelson, Dr. Dietz never met, evaluated, or read reports on any of the kids.
This is egregious. This is a person who has never met the 5 plaintiffs. He's never reviewed a single document about this case, and he's sitting there telling her what to say.
In the final expensive assessment for the state, Dr. Reba Harrelson has a change of heart, now writing the kids don't need years of therapy, but 1 year of treatment max, meaning the state shouldn't have to pay that much to help the kids recover.
This present forensic mental health evaluation is being conducted at the request of lawyers.
Reba Harrelson tells King 5 these are her opinions alone, and in no way was she manipulated by her supervisor or anyone else.
The state's supposed to come to the truth of what happened for the kids.
Catherine Kent sees it differently.
You want to believe in the court system and that the truth is being found. And where you see in this case where hundreds of thousands of dollars was being misspent on manipulating the facts, that's the travesty and should be addressed.
After police rescued the kids in 2011, DSHS reviewed the work of its social workers. Despite evidence they repeatedly failed these children, not one social worker or manager was ever held accountable. No one fired, not even a reprimand.
This case is a gross caricature of all of the most negative stereotypes that exist in this society about Child Protective Services social work. Someone's head should have rolled for this.
At least 2 of the social workers on the case did get some important paperwork from DSHS. Congratulations on your promotion. Best wishes in your new appointment.